I wasn't necessarily thinking Bill O'Brien's the best play caller in the world and the offensive guru that nobody can touch, but I thought he was just about as good a guy that they could have filled that role because obviously, you know better than I do. Ryan Day has, you know, clinched onto that play calling duty and just not wanted to give it up. So for him to give it up, he's got to really trust that guy. And Bill O'Brien, with all of his experience, just seemed to be okay, a guy that he can trust and to run Ryan Day's offense, I assume. Does Chip Kelly, I guess, fill the same void?
Um, that's if he gives it up, right? Because a year ago, right now, he told us that he was giving up play calling. Brian Hartline was going to call plays, and then it didn't work out. Brian wasn't the play caller Ryan needed him to be, so Ryan took it back over. And when he said it, I kind of went full Ron Burgundy, like, I don't believe you. Like, it's just like, okay, you're giving up play calling. You've said this before, and I think these two guys are certainly more qualified and more likely to put him in a place of comfort if they call plays, either of them. I do think Chip's a better play caller. I was not in love with Bill O'Brien's offense at Alabama. I broke down the whole, an entire LSU game last Tuesday for my subscribers, and it was the first drive. You had a lot of excitement. Like, he was doing some cool things with two running backs, and all you could think about was Travion Henderson and Quinshawn Judkins. But as the game went on, it was like, ooh, I'm not really a fan of this offense. I think that this job, if they call plays, I think Chip Kelly's a better play caller. But I've really viewed this job as the next Kevin Wilson. Because in 2022, Ryan called the plays. They were a field goal away from beating Georgia, winning the national championship. I think it worked well. He just lost his CEO in the offensive staff room and replaced him with an inexperienced guy in Brian Hartline, and it proved to not be successful. I think if Chip Kelly or Bill O'Brien, when he was there, if they're coming in to be the next Kevin Wilson, run the room, do the job, but ultimately Ryan's going to kind of be that final play calling say, I think it's an excellent hire. If he's just turning over the keys, and I think either was an excellent hire. Right? Bill O'Brien, we watched him dog cuss Tom Brady. He'd have no problem, holding coaches accountable, coaching the quarterback hard. Chip Kelly, the same, right? I think this Chip Kelly hire is even more interesting because you need a coordinator that's going to push back on a head coach. Ryan did it with Urban. Tom Herman did it with Urban. And I think Chip Kelly absolutely will push back on Ryan to try to get to the best result, which is the offensive production on the field.
For you, what makes a good play caller?
I think it's a number of things. I've always said a good play caller is kind of a product of a great staff, because we sit in hours and hours of meetings watching third down defense, diagramming every defense they run on situationally, and then every play we put on the board, we diagram it out against every defense they run. So when you get to game day, you already have your plan in place. It's more like picking and choosing, and that's where it starts. But then where you go from a good play caller to a great play caller is your ability to see the game and adjust in game, right? Because everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. That's what the saying goes. And I think you got to have a great plan going in, but you got to be great in-game adjusters. And I think that's what Ryan does really well. That's what his staff did really well. Losing Kevin Wilson in the box, I think, was a bigger loss than people realize, because he has so much experience, right, on the offensive side of the ball as a coordinator. He saw the game well up in the box, and he was able to communicate that on the field to Ryan and to the staff, and they adjust throughout the game. That's what Ryan needs. He needs that guy in the box, and whoever calls the plays calls the plays. He just lost a great vision, a great visionary in the box that could see the game well and that communicated well. And I think if Chip Kelly's that for him, they're going to be right back as a top 10, top 5 offense in college football.
Well, it's pretty obvious. Chip Kelly wants to ball. He wants to talk ball. He wants to coach ball. He doesn't want to deal with NIL and transfer portal and all this other garbage going on. He never liked to recruit. Right. He was offering himself all over the NFL just to coach offense, and you sit in film rooms and break it down. It is an interesting dynamic that here was one of the hot commodities in college football about 10 years ago or so. And now he's moved down to this coordinator position, and here his protege is now his boss.
Yeah.
Any concern that could be kind of strange?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I made this point before my show today to my co-host. It would be like if I never got out of coaching, I became a head coach, and I hired Urban Meyer to come in. Like, how is that dynamic? And I think Chip is a little more aware than Urban, maybe not as big an ego, but it's definitely going to be a dynamic they have to work through, because not only did Ryan work for him in the NFL at both stops, but he also played for him at New Hampshire. So now as a former player, former assistant that's telling you what to do.
Absolutely. And what did they do with Brian Hartline to keep him engaged, interested, and in the right direction?
I mean, the salary. As long as he doesn't take a pay cut, he'll be fine. The reality is, Brian Hartline didn't want the coordinator job. He didn't. One, I don't think he thought he was ready for it. He didn't understand what was going on up front as well as he needed to be a great coordinator. And two, no one wants to be the coordinator that's taking over after CJ Stroud leaves. That sounds like an awful idea. Like maybe when CJ Stroud is there, but you're going to put together an offense after the rookie of the year leaves. That's tough. And especially as the quarterback situation played out, they realized they didn't have one of that caliber. And so I think Hartline is going to be just fine. Pay him $1 million, let him go recruit receivers, be the best recruiter in the country, and continue down his journey and learning football.